Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another bonus episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded here live at the Engage Summit in Charlotte. It's been a great time so far, and we're excited to keep the conversations going with folks from Nash Community College. So we're going to talk about student success broadly and how both of you, our guests here, Ashlyn and KJ, are kind of collaborating to enable that at your institution. So if you both want to just super briefly introduce yourselves and your background, and then we'll get into more of the conversation about enabling student success through digital transformation.
Sure. So thank you for having us. My name is Dr. Ashlyn Wilson. I'm the Associate Vice President for Advising and Onboarding at Nash Community College. My background, about 10 years in higher ed, always at community colleges, and most recently the last 6 in academic advising and advising leadership, and then over to Nash in my current role as of last September.
And I will also make note that you are on a big poster down the hall, and you're kind of a power user or whatever it might be, and you've been kind of engaging really with the Engage Summit. So it's just very cool and very exciting, and I'm sure Element appreciates you and your time and your input and everything.
We've been trying to raise the hand for little guys, smaller rural institutions in North Carolina that are still learning and utilizing and growing in the tools that we have. So I'm really excited to have just a little bit of a spotlight on us out there in old Rocky Mount. So thank you.
Sure, and I'm Dr. Askew, Dr. KJ Askew, marketing primarily, and have really delved into the whole CRM aspect at Nash for the three-ish years that we've been a part of the platform, Element. And I'm just happy to be here with Dr. Wilson, who's the famous star, here at Element with her big poster, as you said. But I continue to be excited about all the things and all the opportunities that Element comes out with. And it has definitely had a completely different kind of look on the way that we do our proactive outreach and our recruitment and our marketing all the way through to our student success. So I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Thanks for both of you joining us here, getting a little time to show busy time. You probably can't walk down the hall, your celebrity status here, but because I think, I'm excited for the conversation because I think it's kind of taking a little bit of like a liberal notion around like the idea of like marketing, the idea of like if you have student success resources or whatever else, or you want to be, successfully retaining students, a lot of it does require sort of good data integration, being proactive, and all that kind of good stuff. So, but before we get too far, you mentioned, being customers of the platform a while. I'm not sure if you all have been at the Engage Summit before, but what's the vibe for you this year? It sounds like maybe just kind of, again, bringing that spotlight in, kind of sharing success stories, or what's it been like for you? Because we're kind of like, getting towards the halfway point, I guess I'd say, for the event.
Yeah, so I guess I came to Engage last year, and so it was big then, and it's even bigger now, right? Almost 1,000, or if not 1,000 more members here, which is pretty exciting to see all the new things and things come out about things like case management and all the continued enhancements on things like deduplication. For if you're in that, you understand the excitement behind something like that, all right? And so, I think the vibe is just like it was last year, right? And maybe even bigger, even better. I think I am continuously energized by when we come back every year, they're doing something new, they're doing something different, but also at the same time, the customers are as happy, right, of all the things and all the enhancements they're making, because if you're really a part of the work, which is student success, as you mentioned, right, that's the whole goal, then things like this are exciting to you, right, because you're able to do more things that you weren't able to do before you integrated Element into your processes at your institution. So I think it's exciting. We're happy to be back here again, and I'm sure Dr. Wilson, for her first time, I believe, I'm sure she has something to say too.
Yeah, so this is my first Engage Summit. Of course, word on the street was it's incredible. And yeah, about halfway through, it's incredible, to get all of the higher ed nerds, not nerds, but nerds together in the summer when we're also stressed out on our campuses trying to make changes when things are a little bit different. Not that they're slower, but summer is different. So to be here now to re-energize a little bit, to have Element really listening to us and saying like, hey, we see you, we know this is a problem, here's what we've done, is like, oh my gosh, like, thank you guys. Like we can survive another fall enrollment cycle. We can do this. So it's been great and good news so far from Ty and James this morning about some things and others. So good start to the.
Yeah. I think people, this is my third year going and just a lot of energy, enthusiasm. They put on a good show, a good party, good atmosphere here. And they usually make a lot of great, exciting, product announcements. And, there's kind of over to the side of us, the Ask an Expert kind of help desk. A lot of folks just getting, particular questions answered or problem solved and everything, which is really great. So we'll get on to kind of the conversation around student success at Nash. We'll start with you, Ashlyn, about what you've learned about certain techniques and strategies that you feel like have been consistently successful when it comes to enabling student success.
Sure. I think number one, and what Element and other users here have already said, is you have to pick your priorities. What are your priorities? Who are your students? And so there's a phrase running around the North Carolina community college system right now: system strong, locally unique. Okay, and I one of the other presidents, not ours, has said it, though ours has repeated it a few times now, but it makes complete sense. And so a product like Element that's able to customize to each one of us, those still stay within compliance for our community college system, makes a lot of sense. But our students everywhere are locally unique. We have different challenges. We have different hurdles. We have different curriculums even within public school systems. So you have to learn what your students are coming to you with or without, and then why are they there? And so that is something that we have really learned, that I have really learned, is you have to sit for a little while and you have to really figure out who your students are, what you're able to offer, who your faculty are, what the strengths are of your institution, and then what gaps you're going to fill first in order to make your students more successful, right? We're not going to graduate all of our students in the first round of a new program or a new pilot for something, right? So what is your goal? What are the small things that you're going to jump onto first? And what is really able to be changed at a reasonable level and a reasonable scale, reasonable timeline, and then where do you go from there? So that is one of the biggest reality checks in the work that we do, is we cannot fix everything at once, but what are the things that are going to be the most impactful for our students right away?
Yeah, and just a quick reflection on that before you jump in, KJ. It is just that, if everything's important, nothing's important. And then that idea of certainly being in a system, there can be some great benefits to that. But I'd imagine if your approach is trying to kind of just blanket over everything, it's going to minimize, I guess, the potential, the impact, that idea of if we can really contour around our unique environment, if there was a system of higher education and all the schools are using the same platform, that's great, but they should have kind of the agency maybe to kind of contour around their particular use cases or their particular priorities and that sort of thing. So that's really cool to hear.
I don't know if I can say too much more on it. I guess I'll just reinforce some of the things she said, right? There is an importance behind understanding that a platform that is as massive as Element 451, and for an institution that didn't have a CRM before and we're doing a lot more manual work, right? It's about what is important to move the needle forward for your institution. And so as somebody that's a little bit more on the sides of the crux of things, right? The gears behind getting futures turned on and the implementation of things, I will say that it has been very important for both getting individuals at the campus on board with going about it where you are bringing forward things to them that will help them with their pain points, that they're going through, right? And that's the same thing with what Dr. Wilson said earlier about Element listening to us. It's kind of the same thing on our end as the implementors on our own campus. Is like if we are acknowledging some of the pain points that our different divisions and different departments are going through, that they are seeing as challenges to help move the needle forward for student success. If Element can help with that, right, we're able to then move Element forward, implement that, have them start using it, have them start to see the return on investment, all right, and that the systems that Element provides are actually helpful. Right. If we're able to do that, then we are seeing a better, rate of return on, some of our successful implementation throughout the campus. Right. And so I just think that's important when we're looking at student success and the implementation of student success. Right.
Yeah, I guess what I'm taking away from that, is just that idea of like having a collaborative spirit, in spaces like this, you can kind of learn from other folks, other customers, obviously the whole Element team, but then even, at your campus, kind of being just very open to feedback and kind of transparent in the process or whatever it might be. You're obviously just going to get to that point, again, of harnessing the full potential that much quicker versus making a lot of assumptions or just making something that's kind of just a general kind of blanket solution. But because, I think it's always that idea, too, of just sort of iterating over time, just knowing like, we're good and we're going to get better and we're going to get there through just like really, bringing the team together on a regular basis and, keeping open lines of communication so folks can.
And it's okay to take our time, right? It's okay to learn the features as they come, but also to not just make sure that we're turning on a million different features, but that we're actually utilizing them to their full, capacity.
Yeah, that'd probably be like overloading somebody where it's like, all these sort of bells and whistles and it's like, all right, we're doing version 1.0.
Yeah, exactly.
We're starting here and everybody was like, yeah, this is great. Maybe we could do this or that. The other thing is like, yep, okay, now we're going to keep moving and evolving.
And I just got a question the other day through a text message chat with a student, and she asked, was I a real person or was I AI? And it's like, again, we really want to use this. Everyone wants us to use it, but are our students ready to receive it? Is it going to be helpful for them? Can they trust it? Do people trust higher ed in Rocky Mount? Do people trust Nash Community College in Rocky Mount? Do our colleagues trust us to be able to use it? Those are all things that's part of the scaling too, or part of the internal kind of battle that you have to have. And I think that's really why it's important for KJ and I to both be here today, right? Because we come from two completely separate lenses, but we are working our own network and our own understanding of student success, and we're getting somewhere. It's really a positive kind of relationship right now, especially. And so that's the part that's exciting when we're looking at student success at Nash.
I think that perfectly segues the idea of like, the next question I wanted to ask was, you're experiencing leveraging technology to be more effective and efficient with your advising work and everything. So I think that's kind of what I'm sort of hearing is that idea of kind of, I guess, getting more creative or kind of imaginative. Again, that sort of liberal idea of like what, a marketing team could do at an institution is not just, going external for prospective students or to like a community or whatever. So I guess if you want to get a little bit more tactical and like kind of understanding like the ways that you've been able to, kind of iterate technology, like, certain things that you've done that you've seen just be enabling more effectiveness and efficiency.
If I could jump in ahead of KJ, he has a lot of great ideas and a lot of things that he's doing, but we had our traditional academic advising team off campus last Friday for a training. And one thing that I mentioned to them with their use of Element is that they should not, and we should not as an institution, only be contacting our students if it's bad news. Right? Then they get conditioned into this. And we had an early alert system when I came to Nash, and it has phased out now as of the end of June. We have not renewed with them. But that system was really only used to deliver bad news. Hey, you're not logged in enough. You're not succeeding based on this metric. And what I really want them to understand as advisors, if we're building trust and rapport with our students, you can send them a text message or a nudge or alert, in the future with all the other options that Element has that just says, hey, thinking about you. Hope you're having a good summer. I know that you're registered, but come back and see me, after July 4th break or One of our advisors mentioned that she schedules a text to go out over the weekend that just says, hey, you probably have something due on Sunday. Like, make sure you check it, right? Have a great weekend. And it's just as casual as that. But as far as the technology and the impact that a student can get, it's a casual reminder like, hey, like, I'm thinking about you. I'm here if you need me, but also you have work done. Like, that's something that hasn't happened, right? We're only getting the messages of, you didn't turn in, I got a message from your teacher, you haven't, done this, your financial aid is at risk, oh yeah, you didn't go to class, you have a parking ticket, your library book's overdue, but hey, thinking about you, I hope you're having a good summer. That type of messaging and just the casual nature, I think, is where our students can really feel okay to connect with us when they really need it.
No, and I'll just say I think it's a similar situation on the marketing side. While yes, we've done some big grand things in terms of the ideas and things that we're able to do now with Element, I think at the same time those small things are just as important, right? One of the things that we are learning continuously in marketing, especially when it comes to higher education, is people just want to know that you're talking to them, right? They don't want to feel like you're just sending out a broad message, a general message. They want to see their first name, right? They want to see that, you actually know what I'm going through or what I'm interested in as far as my program. I don't just want to see an enrollment message that says, come to Nash. I want to see something say, come to our culinary class because, hey, I know you're interested in cooking or something like that. And so I think Element has definitely just allowed us to be more proactive in our outreach and actually being intentional about the audiences that we're targeting and the audiences that we're having conversations with. And so I think just from that aspect alone, and so kind of what Dr. Wilson said, right, it's the simple things as much as it is the big things. And Element has just allowed us another opportunity to be able to do that. And also, the marketing has also been, an inability to see the entirety of the student's journey, which in Element you can see that 360 view, right? All the way through from, request for information or RFI form, where they're a prospect, as I like to consider them, all the way through to when I saw they put in the application, because the applications are running out of Element, all the way through to, hey, they had an appointment with their advisor, so I know they're talking to their advisor, right? All the way through to the end of that student journey. And so just the ability and the value behind being able to see that, seeing that my marketing message all the way from the beginning has kept them all the way through to the end, and working in cohesion with all the other departments, right, that are part of student success as well. I mean, you can't put a price on it, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, I love that idea of like, don't just communicate when there's something wrong or negative or you miss something or whatever. There can be times where there is like, an urgency around that or, whatever it might be. But yeah, trying to kind of broach subjects more casually, more personalized, and kind of start a conversation, I think is really great. And almost like kind of what you were saying, that somebody be like, are you AI? Are you a robot or whatever? Like in some context that could have been like a compliment, I guess, because it's just like, you were so responsive, you gave me everything I needed, whatever. But like that is sometimes like we got to kind of chip away at that at first, because everybody's like, oh my God, I got to talk to another robot or whatever. It's like, you'd be like, hey, no, I'm a person, that's okay. But and then yeah, the idea is like, if you're able to do that good work of something that feels very seamless, natural, authentic, and like I think that will go a long way to sort of ingratiating the institution to the student, because I know it's always kind of a thing that often is forgotten, is that like they just view every interaction as like Nash. Like it's not like, oh well, there's that one office, that one person, that whatever. It's just Nash. So you want to make sure that it's cohesive and positive.
And in that situation, I was helping a student review her scholarship application, right? And so it's something that it's another gap that Element's helping us fill, right? Because she's sending me screenshots from her cell phone of her scholarship application that needs to be submitted next week. And then she's like, well, are you, a real person? Like, I'm a real person. Like, I'm giving you this real feedback, on this. And again, if it helps the student receive a scholarship, for the fall, then we have certainly impacted a life. So it's really cool. Again, it's just a different kind of bridge that it's helping us just create.
Yeah, and that's even always just a refreshing take, is like there would be like a notion of like automate everything, like, do whatever else, but like there is going to be a place to be sort of like augmented to do more personal human kind of outreach and that sort of thing. So I think that's always a good thing to keep in mind, and that all these sort of interactions and everything, which are very human and whatever else, just the idea of the data that creates the kind of back end and all the gears and everything that you're talking about, I think it can be a very harmonious sort of circle as those interactions that, are quote unquote maybe inefficient or something. It's we know that it is super important that they feel, that sort of culture of support and whatever else is not just sort of, all automated or whatever else. So,
I mean, in the simplest phrase, people just want to know you care. Right. And, when they're looking for that place that they want to go to for their education or whatever is the next part of their journey. And for a lot of people, that is education, that's going back to school or going to school. They just want to know Nash Community College cares about them. Right. And so being able to, just like you said, have that enhanced personal or personal touch or personalization is just, it's above all else when you're thinking about what our prospective students or current students actually care about, all right?
Right. I think it would definitely result, just positive sentiment, among students, but then you can definitely quantify that in a lot of different ways, just in terms of, I guess, maybe engagement rates and, messages or, just kind of all the indicators of it working, more timely registration or, just higher retention, higher student satisfaction. There could be, an ROI aspect of just sort of all these sort of things. And so I think it's I don't know, I feel like it's a good balanced take. It's not just AI everything, automate everything. We're just, all working with robots now or whatever. But so as we wrap up, I'll give you the opportunity, each of you, advice that you would give to other higher ed leaders navigating this moment.
I think right now with integrating more AI tools and obviously Element specifically, my biggest piece of advice is make sure everything is written down. I just listened to a session that they didn't have any standard operating procedures before they implemented more technology. So how do you train your knowledge base, all of your agents, to do exactly what you want them to do if you don't have anything written down for your human staff? So adding more tools and adding more technology is not going to fix what is broken if your processes are already kind of dysfunctional. And so that is something that we are really learning, right, to be able to articulate things in a way that not just students can understand, but our staff can understand, our faculty who don't do our jobs every day can understand, but then also we can train AI agents to understand and to not give information that can maybe be perceived in a way that's not really true, right? But you have to be able to outline exactly how students flow through your institution and exactly at what points are most important for them to get the information and to get the intervention that they need. And so without that, without a pathway first, more tools are not going to fix that. So my biggest advice is just to make sure that you have good partners and that you can articulate what it is exactly that needs to happen.
I guess mine is very straightforward and to the point of, just like she said, with all the things that are happening as far as higher education is concerned, don't be afraid to take the first step. We are all going to a different understanding and kind of a different time of higher education. And so there's an expectations that you got to do things differently to stay relevant, to stay, an intriguing option for students. But at the end of the day, we're all still here for that purpose of student success. So don't be afraid to take the first step. Don't be afraid to move forward with something new. It's what they say about excuses, right? And the quote I like is, excuses are monuments of nothing, building a bridge to nowhere, right? And basically all that means is take the first step. Don't keep saying you can't do it. You can do it. Somebody's done it before, so you can do it too. So let's just move forward.
Great advice as well. We always say it on the show, sort of start somewhere, kind of just whatever that might be. And I think it is also just it may be thinking about the policies, procedures, process, because, honestly, I feel like sometimes you just shove technology into kind of a, wobbly system, or organization. might end up making things worse because it's like, I don't know how to do this or, whatever else, like, whatever it might have been before, people, knew kind of what they were doing. So like when you just kind of introduce ambiguity or, kind of rock the boat, I don't know. Yeah, I just always think about that idea of like the implementation is almost as important or more important than like what tool are we going to kind of buy into and all those sort of things. You've got to make sure that people are adopting it and feel good about it and kind of get the feedback flowing and again just kind of iterate and improve from there. So we will leave it there. Thank you both so much for hanging out and sharing all that you did. Great conversation and just enjoy the rest of your conference. Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.